So hi everyone, I'm Kayum and in this video we will going to learn that how to add, disable, enable and drop constraints on tables in the Oracle database. So as the name suggests, constraints means a user applied limits. So these are actually a unique field in the table which can define the unique records present on the table. So it can be primary keys, primary, unique, so in this way. So these are actually limits applied on the tables, so we cannot go far beyond the limits, so that's why we can use constraint to limit the records inside the tables. So this video is all about that, how to add them, disable, enable and drop constraints. So in some scenarios, like if you want to truncate the table or copy the table or rename the table, so in that case, if your table has some unique constraints, so we need to disable them before doing some changes on the tables. So in that case we use some operations like disable, enabling them, or sometimes if we don't need if we no longer needs any constraint, we can drop them. So this is how the constraints work on the tables. So first of all, I will show you that we have a table which is named as student, and we will going to create a constraint on this table on each of the columns. Okay, so you can see that we are having some two columns here. First one is id, second one is student name. So create we will gonna create a constraint on them. Okay, so let add constraint to the table. Okay, right. So we will gonna add a constraint on the student table. So for that give we will use a ddl statement, alter, then table followed by the table name which is student. Okay, then we will mention add keyword here, and then followed by the constraint keyword, and then the constraint name. So in this case we will use student dot constraint. Okay, constraint. Okay, so this is the constraint name for the student table. Now here I want to create a unique constraint here. So in the round brackets we will mention the columns on which we want to create the constraints. Okay, so let me tell you that first one is id, second one is student underscore name. So these are the two columns on which we want to create student constraints. Okay, so this is the uh, this is the ddl statement using which we can add a constraint to the tables. So let me execute it. So, okay, so we have successfully added a constraint on the student table which is named as student underscore constraint. Now the next one, here I will mention then how to check the status of the constraint on the table. So for that we will use select owner, constraint name, then constraint type, then table name, then status, then index underscore owner, index underscore name from all constraint views. So this is all constraint views. From here we can get the detail of the constraint and status. Okay, so Now here we just want the constraints status for the table name, which is name as student. Okay, so here you can see that we are logged in as system. Okay, so we are system user, so in that we have created a constraint which is student underscore constraint. You can see here, okay, we had created a student underscore constraint, and this constraint having a type of unique. Okay, table name is student, and it's showing the status as enable. Okay, so currently the status of the constraint is enable. Okay, so now we will gonna disable it. Now we will disable the constraint. Disable the constraint. Okay, so for disabling the constraint we will use alter table, then table name, which is student, then mention the disable clause, disable, then constraint, and then constraint name. Okay, done. So you can, so you can see here we had a return, we have type a constraint. गया कुछ फायदा नहीं है. So now here by using this alter statement we can disable the constraint. So here the constraint has been disabled. We can check the status of the constraint by using the above query. So you can see that the student underscore constraint has been disabled now. So in this way we can disable the constraint. Now the next will be to enable the constraint. Okay, to enable the constraint. So for that we will again use alter table, then the table name, then here we will mention enable constraint, then the constraint name. Okay, so let me execute it. So currently our constraint is disabled, and now we will gonna going to enable it. Okay, so it has been enabled. Okay, so let me show you the status of the constraint. Okay, so now the constraint has been enabled. Okay, so in this way we can do it. Now finally we will drop the constraint. Okay, now finally we will drop the constraint. So for dropping the constraint we can use again the alter table student, then drop constraint keyword. Okay, and then mention the constraint name. Done. So after executing this query we can drop the constraint, and let me show you that the constraint has been dropped. So you can see that there is no constraint which is having a name as a student constraint, so we has been drop it from our table. So in this way we can drop, we can add, disable, enable, and drop the constraints on the table. So guys, this will be helpful for you. Thanks for watching this video.